Good evening and welcome to OmniDog's Vault. I am OmniDog, accompanied by the Minister of Comics. How's it going, Taylor?
I'm doing great.
And we have with us a great guest. I appreciate the fact that he agreed to come on our show, and that would be Jeff Parker. Jeff,
Hello.
how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for being with us. And we were just talking in the green room before the show about Ben Cooper Halloween costumes. Do they still even make those? Do you even know what those are, Taylor?
I do know what they are. I don't think they still make them though. Maybe
Okay.
I'm wrong. The kind of Halloween costumes we have now are so detailed, they're really accurate, but back then it wasn't the case.
You can just walk in a Walmart or whatever and get a perfect Iron Man mask or a Black Panther. Like, as a kid, that would have killed me. Like, what if I could just get something that actually looked like the character instead of saying Batman on the head?
Yeah, exactly. Identifying you. So I was going to start with something else, but I'm going to start with something different. Because I read these today.
Oh, cool. I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
I think you should be, because when you talk about Ben Cooper masks, and then you've got Space Ghost and Johnny Quest.
That's the era of Ben Cooper. That's the prime Ben Cooper time.
I wasn't really
around yet.
That's I grew up in the 60s and 70s. So Space Ghost and Johnny Quest and the Impossibles. I remember the Impossibles. I'm not sure I remember. Let's see.
The Herculoids or the Galaxy Trio. I bet that's the one that's throwing you.
I think the Herculoids were the ones that I didn't remember.
Get the Herculoids.
That was a cartoon?
Yeah, regionally they were packaged differently. Like you'd often get like Space Ghost with the Herculoids. Impossibles were their own thing. You know, they were kind of a little earlier, and that was the one that initially threw me because they're more like a little Jetsons sort of wacky design, sort of like the Beatles cartoon where their whole thing was they're a band who all seem to play guitars. Like, come on now, diversify this band a little bit.
That's why they were so excited in here to get a drummer when the gal showed up. Now she wasn't. I don't remember her being in the Impossible.
She's not. She was a suggestion by Darwin Cook. When this thing came together, I believe I could have some details wrong, but somebody can do an oral history later and correct me. I think Dan DiDio initially asked Darwin Cook, like, because they finally had gotten the Hanna-Barbera division to agree to let them do some more comics. And came in and opened up the big folder and said, "Who do you want to do?" And they thought, like, let's put all the 60s action heroes together, and do a big event. And they went to Darwin because Darwin had done New Frontier, which is still my favorite DC series, maybe ever, at least in the 21st century. And Darwin, bless his heart, said I would get Parker and Shaner to do it because he had just read the Flash Gordon that we did at Dynamite. So like I got together with Darwin and he and I kind of batted around. Like he had some vague ideas. It was kind of interesting because he told me like some scenes that he had in his mind of like Johnny and Haji finding a crashed Phantom cruiser in the jungle and stuff like that, And I loved hearing that like one of my heroes actually kind of sometimes gets story the way I do, where like disparate scenes. And then it's like, you got to try to make sense. Like, why would I see this intriguing scene? And then like this was all happening at the Baltimore Con. And then when I was flying back to Oregon, I was furiously writing in a notebook, trying to plan it all. Like, here's how the story could happen. And I emailed it to him and he loved it. And got it all together. He essentially wrote the pitch for it that they had to run by Hanna-Barbera. And then Darwin had to bow out. And obviously I didn't know at the time that's when he probably got his cancer diagnosis, So then, because originally we thought he was going to be drawing some of it, a little bit, backup here and there. And then he went and did his thing with Gilbert Hernandez, which is great if you can ever find it. And so now I veered way off. Like, where was I starting with the?
Is that book Twilight Children you're talking about?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
it's a really good series. Like, he's so dedicated. Like, well, the guy had to be in incredible pain, but was finishing that series. I had no idea what was going on. But anyway, so Evan Shaner and I started off the series, and the big ones obviously are Johnny Quest and Space Ghost. So it's like Johnny Quest was everything to me as a kid. It's so influential in everything I've done.
It's the best musical intro ever.
Johnny Quest?
It is so much of a hard rocking theme song.
It is the jazziest thing imaginable.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's yeah, and I was lucky enough, like early on in, like when I was starting out in the 90s, I got to be friends with Doug Wildey, and Doug would talk to me about his ideas of working with the show and everything, and he told me, like, yeah, I never wanted him to have a little dog. It didn't make any sense. You got to carry a dog everywhere. And he said, I would have given him a monkey, because a monkey can go get the keys or whatever and let you out, if you get locked up and stuff like that. And he's way more useful. And of course, Alex Toth, then when he does Space Ghost, says, yeah, the monkey, I'm going to use the monkey. So that's why in the story, I sideline Bandit pretty hard and bring Blip into the whole thing. And he like is a more present of the super pets there that you get to see.
I'm just looking to see if I can find Blip really quick.
When you first see him, that's when they go in the Phantom Cruiser and Johnny's looking around, and then Blip jumps down and literally just kind of thrashes around on his head like a monkey would do. And then Haji calms him down, and
yeah, that's right. Okay, here he is.
Oh, look at that beautiful Evan Shaner art. Isn't that the best? Look at Birdman. Look at Bandit over there. He's glaring at the cat across on the other side of the Quest jet.
Oh, okay, right over here.
That's a classic Doc Shaner thing. He'll put all these little kind of details. He'll give everybody some character. Nothing's just a prop to that guy. He always imbues everything with just some cool. There's always extra storytelling going on. I love it.
Well, and you worked in the spider. I thought those things were so scary.
Oh yeah, they're the terrifying robots of Dr. Zen.
Yeah, those, and that's part of the opening montage that goes with that theme song. And I think after this, I'll go look for the intro, and I will still be traumatized by those spiders like I was when I was 6. Because
that one eye, one red eye, and it was such a cool, simple design, but and then you see him firing a tank at it, and it slows it down momentarily, and it keeps marching. Like, wow, these things are tough. And then we of course put them all in there because they're too cool.
Yeah, I just loved that it had, especially the Impossibles. I don't even know if it had more than one season, but I remember watching it, and I was just amazed that it got worked into a comic book, and they actually you had them do a lot, which I thought was great. And you introduced a new character that wanted to join the Impossibles.
That's how I got on Darwin.
Okay.
Darwin, I think as far back as New Frontier was going to introduce a character called Cobalt that he never got around to. And I think he remembered that, and he put it in the pitch, let's, because one of the things we were doing was we were like, all right, the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons were aimed at 6-year-old boys, little white boys, and it's like all the moms are gone. And what the hell happened to all their moms? It's like
a Disney movie.
Superheroes in general.
Yeah, it's just a world of dads. And like Johnny, like 2 dads, what the hell? Where, what's going on here? So we wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit, and like, because like a lot of kids of color like really always loved Haji because he was the kid they could play, And I've heard that. So I heard that at the convention several times. They would like, that's why it was really important to me as a kid in the 60s. I would like, if I only had a kid I could glom onto, and like that could be me, even though I'm not really Indian or whatever. So we thought, well, this is easy enough to mix up. I knew the ones we could mix up and it's like, and bring in. Like, I didn't like the 90s reboot of Johnny where Race has a daughter and everything. It was just like, and they go in a VR room because it's the 90s.
That was really cool for me because that's when I grew up.
Yeah.
So I remember loving
you grew
that.
up in a lame time, Tyler.
Yeah. Well, we had Batman animated series though, so that's a pretty great time in my opinion.
Well,
but I still watch the old Johnny Quest stuff on Cartoon Network. They still had all the old stuff like the Flintstones. I still watch all that stuff too.
Here's what burned me back at the time. And again, this is when I was starting out and I was an artist at the time. And I got hired by Dark Horse. They said, hey, why don't you do we're doing the New Adventures of Johnny Quest. And it's like, you got this whole Doug Wildey thing going on. Because again, I worship Doug Wildey and Alex Toth and everybody. And I went, oh man, this is my dream job. This is going to be terrific. And then it immediately just turned into a nightmare job as it kept going to the studio, and they'd come back going, this doesn't look like our new things. This looks like Classic Quest. Like they had already, kind of labeled everything like that's Classic Quest. This is ours. And they actually sent a note saying, this is more ours. What we're doing is more edgy. And I'm like, they killed people on the old cartoon. You're not doing that. No one's more edgy than Race Bannon just machine gunning dudes. I'm sorry. It's like, this is not edgy at all. They're sitting around with headsets on in VR, like
Tron or something. I remember being very Tron-esque.
Because they were just sure like everything is going to be virtual reality.
Well, I love the last page of the first volume where Cobalt, everything happens on the set of the Impossible set, even though it's a real fight scene. And then Cobalt, it turns out she's a drummer and she wanted to join the Impossibles anyway.
Yeah.
And I just thought,
and now they're really interested in her. Like, thank God we need a drummer.
And I loved how it just all tied together on the TV set. And they asked, the Impossibles couldn't figure it out how to defeat the bad guys, and so they asked the writer there, who wrote the show, what would you do quickly? What would you do? And he's the one that comes up with the ideas for the Impossibles as it's happening, how to defeat the bad guy. I just thought that was really great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Craig Rousseau did the art. It's beautiful. We based that writer on Mark Bernardin. For the Fat Man Batman show. He's one of the co-hosts. He writes a lot of TV shows.
Kevin Smith.
Okay, I don't know that.
Oh, well, he did. So
that's why I have him.
Exactly. We complement each other perfectly. And I thought, it's like, we need a guy who's like TV writer. And then I said, let's make him look like Mark. And it's like, and I also enjoyed the idea that they had to run to him like, come on, help us out here. Cause it's a weird fluke that we got powers at all. That was a strange thing because initially I was a little thrown by the Impossibles because Darwin initially did this big giant piece and they sent it to me in the email. They wouldn't even tell me what they were going to ask me to do. And then they sent me the image of all of them together, and you can probably find that one online pretty quickly. And then I was like, oh, cool. Everybody's in there that I like. There's the Herculoids. There's the Galaxy Trio, who nobody but me knows, I think. And, and then I went, the Impossibles. How am I supposed to work them in? They're like little Jetsons guys. But they were the ones like Hanna-Barbera loved their power set because they kept using it. Like they had the 3 robotic Stooges. I don't know if you remember that one.
No, I don't.
No,
your knowledge is being stretched to the limits tonight, Jess.
No one believes it, but I am.
Maybe you were watching a different TV show than anybody else got to see.
No, it's like they would just use the Three Stooges, and like so Curly had these robotic stretchy arms, and one of them had the multi-man thing. Probably it was Mo, and and I think Larry turned into water. Or
he was Fluid Man.
Yeah, like Fluey. And but then they used it again. It wasn't enough to use the Three Stooges. They did it with the Harlem Globetrotters too. So,
Whoa,
and that's
that is
in
a
the
deep
70s.
pull.
They were like, they loved that power set. They just, no, let's go back to the whole, there's no more iconic thing than somebody with robot arms, someone who can multiply themselves, and someone who turns into water. We're always going to do that. And anyway, the reason they were in there was because Dan DiDio liked them as a kid. So he threw it he put in the mix. And at first I was like, the others make sense to me because, like Toth and Wildy worked on these cartoons and they all kind of have the same vibe in a lot of ways, but they're more cartoony. And then I kind of embraced what you always have to do in comics. You have to embrace the silliness. If you try to hide from it and try to make things cool instead of just enjoying what they are, it always comes off as kind of stiff and fake and like you don't really like the material. But if you dive into it, you get something interesting. So I just like, okay, we're going to stick with, they're a band, they've got powers. They're trying to have a kids show. They're essentially like the Wiggles or whatever. And, and it's like, but no one really and it's cause it's their cover. No one, the whole idea of them having powers is to hide the fact that they have powers. Like it's the TV show is really to cover up that they do this. And that's when I brought in, I'm forgetting her name.
Cobalt?
Huh?
Cobalt?
No, not Cobalt. Big D.
Oh, Big D.
Yeah, Big D. And I just made it so that Birdman's Big D was the same one, and she used a fake kind of avatar or whatever when talking to Birdman. So she's walking along, and Birdman thinks she's another secret agent like him, a secret agent who has wings. But and I ended up liking Birdman a lot more than I thought I would, because I never had a strong attachment to him. But for whatever reason, once Doc and I got into putting him in there, we really enjoyed him.
And Ben Uncles has a great question about that, Jess, as we're talking about Birdman.
That is Ron Randall art too. Okay, yeah. What's the question?
Jeff, did you watch any Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law previous to writing Future Quest? That show also did a great job of celebrating the old while creating new funny content.
It was funny, but yeah, I felt like my job here was to I'm not going to make fun of the characters. I'm going to treat them, like this is just their universe and this is the way things work. And so I didn't want to pull people out of it. I feel like we did get a joke though in there somewhere with Birdman or Space Ghost, but I can't remember what it was. Just a little slight nod to the Evan Dorkin stuff. But I can't remember what it was, but yeah, of course I'd seen it.
I have to admit that I took it. I expected this to be more jokey, and it was
not.
No, it wasn't. No, I was kind of on the edge of my seat as I was trying to figure out in volume 2 how these guys were going to solve the problem. And it was kind of thrilling. It was a bit of a thriller. It had what I think is the perfect amount of little bits of humor strewn throughout it. I don't mean to use strewn, but sprinkled. Thank you. Sprinkled throughout it. There was a little humor sprinkled throughout it, but it was actually very serious what they were dealing with, and people died and everything, and it was. It wasn't lighthearted.
You were expecting Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah,
I love that show back in the 90s.
A lot of people were,
But that made it that much more of a compelling read because I was invested in all the characters because they were in danger 100% of the time almost.
Yeah, because the big Omnicron, the big blob thing, and I had done this rough to show Evan on the one part, okay, it's clear and you can see the bodies floating in it, which sounds gross. And he did it exactly the way what I was talking about. And it's kind of terrifying, really, when you bother to stop and take it in. I can't remember if you see it in that one yet or in the second one.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can find it.
But yeah, because I needed something. I wanted to tie Space Ghost whole thing. Like, we were sort of working backwards. Like, why is Space Ghost living on this ghost world that they talk about? You know, why is he the only one, and why is he training these kids? Yeah, you see lots of things, lots of shots of it. It's just nasty. We got their car in there.
Yeah, and Cobalt's actually driving it and says she thinks it's cute that
she's like, she can fly, so she gets out.
Yeah, Coil Man thinks he's driving when she's the one that's steering it.
It's like, whatever, it makes him feel good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to keep the threat real, and we got to do the neat thing with having the original Mytor and a modern age Mytor. And because of the way time works in the thing, they actually get to meet and intersect. Mm-hmm. And it explains why, like, all these creatures are coming through, and we used it to set up Dino Boy's land. That was the other thing that wasn't in the original idea, but Evan Shaner just kept drawing Dino Boy, and like in stuff we were working on. So I called the editor. I'm like, can I put Dino Boy in here? Evan clearly wants him in. and then it occurred to me, like, oh yeah, Dino Boy's little lost land there. This actually can work really well with the way the whole thing goes together. So I was surprised how well it all clicked up. You would think at some point it would feel really forced, but we even got Frankenstein Jr. in there.
I thought that was great.
He has a big mech and everything, so you get the big. But of course, when the Herculoids see him, if you watch Herculoids cartoons, which you clearly didn't because you didn't even know what they were,
nope.
It's like, because they didn't show. Where'd you grow up?
California.
Oh, okay. I would have thought they would have showed it out there.
Well, they could have showed it. I just didn't watch it.
Yeah, there was probably something else good on another channel, and that's
probably the Monkeys reruns or something.
Yeah, you were watching the Monkeys, or later you were watching like Mytor and Goldar or something like. Silvar and whatever the Space Giants or something. But I'm trying to remember what I would see on the one cable channel I got from California. But you guys got a lot of good stuff though.
Frankenstein Jr.
Yeah, he just lands. But the Herculoids, since they always fight robots, as soon as they see him, they assume he's an enemy. And we give you a little backstory so that you see why they would do that, because they're from a world where humans were wiped out by the singularity. As soon as robots became free thinkers, they killed everybody. It's like,
and you work that in and explain it.
Makes the theory sound really heavy, but it's not.
You work that into this and explain why they shot at Frankenstein Jr. at first.
Yeah, they immediately attack him.
Yeah,
and do a pretty good job on him too. They kind of start wailing on him.
Yeah. So you talked about your drawing that. And I also looked at your I looked in the description box in the chat on the YouTube page. I have Jeff's Twitter and his website and his Kickstarter.
Yeah, please check those out.
All linked, and we'll talk about your Kickstarter. But I thought it was interesting on your website that you threw shade at your Wikipedia entry about how botched up it was. And I'm like, I went there looking for stuff, and I'm like, they don't give him credit for like anything. Well, not anything, but they don't give him credit for this and that and this, but they do give you credit for this Paradox Press stuff.
Yeah, like whoever did my Wikipedia of the various people who felt motivated one day to chime in. I didn't do it because you're not supposed to do your own Wikipedia entry.
Right.
I don't know if they really care anymore. Maybe I should just go in there and clean it all up. But
Just tell someone in the chat what you want them to do, and they'll do it.
yeah, it's like if one of you, you know what happened? Everybody who used to do all the comics Wikipedia stuff, they all went to what is the thing I make so fun of all the time? TV tropes. Like you can find a lot of stuff about comics we all read and stuff I've worked on TV tropes because they'll cover comics too. And I'm like, I bet these were a lot of the people who used to update Wikipedia for comics, and they just got into this site more instead. So yeah, they'll mention stuff like those Paradox Press books I did. But then when you go up there, it's like it's horribly out of date. I'm probably still just starting Thunderbolts or something. You know?
And so I have all these big books. Those are
fascinating books, aren't they?
I loved these books in the mid 90s to late 90s. I really appreciated Paradox Press and the Vertigo crime books that Taylor and I talk about. It really felt like DC was really taking a chance with these. I don't know how well they sold.
Yeah, it was like they were going for the larger book market. Like it's because it's a real coffee table book you can pick up and flip through endlessly. All of them are.
And is this you right here?
Yeah, that's me. I drew Dostoevsky. I didn't write it, but I did draw it.
This is amazing art. And you did storyboards also. So you're really quite an accomplished artist.
Yeah, for years, that's how I made a living. It wasn't until I started working for Marvel that it kind of all flipped, and everybody only thought of me as a writer. I guess people think you can only do one thing or whatever, and that's fine. I'm super impatient, so I can write faster than I can draw. So it kind of works out. Plus, I get to work with a lot of really cool artists. I mean, I get to work with great people.
Taylor knows how unfair I think it is when somebody can write and draw well, do both things well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, I do think it's unfair when somebody gets blessed with both talents. But not only can you write well, but I started flipping through these the big books. And your art's really remarkable. I mean, obviously, if we're a storyboard artist, they don't hire people who. I mean, you have to be a really good artist to do storyboard stuff. So that's pretty impressive, I think.
It's interesting. With storyboards, the key isn't so much the finish of your art. It's about doing a drawing that works in the real world because they've got to shoot from it. You know, they're. And a lot of times this would happen where I would work on, it was mostly commercials, but occasionally there'd be short films and stuff or music videos. And I would draw something and I would just put a random lamp or whatever in the scene. It's just, I'm just filling the scene or whatever with typical stuff. And then later I'd come back in to a room and I'd see set people like they're obsessing, trying to figure out how to get the lamp I drew. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I just really, I was just drawing a generic lamp. That doesn't have to be just, it could be whatever you want, you know? But it's funny, because they would get deadly serious about it. Like I was really just doing what the director told me he gave me a shot list and I drew them. But then you sit down and you work a lot of times with the director, like my friend, Gabe Hardman. You know, he storyboards on a lot of big movies. You know, he's worked with Christopher Nolan a lot and stuff, and Ron Howard and others. And and he the one scene in Superman Returns, which is the main scene people like, and everybody tunes out the rest of the movie. That's good.
That's what I did.
The whole thing with him saving the airplane, that's all Hardman. You know, he like figured that all out. You'd be surprised how much storyboard artists like do the work. And then one day I remember I was freeloading lunch in the little craft service area on some little production I was working on. And someone had left the budget thing out, like the line producer had left a thing with the budget out. And I looked down there, and, you know, and I saw what I did. And then I looked up and saw what the director was getting paid. And I was like, whoa, Like you always realize you're in the wrong end of everything every time you see those breakdowns that you're not supposed to see. Like, oh, okay, maybe I should actually get behind the camera and do the same thing, but act like a very educated person.
Ben has another good question.
Bring it on, Ben.
I've heard a lot of artists turned writers say they couldn't go back and work at an artist for someone else's writing projects. Do you think did I say that right? Do you think that's true for you, Jeff?
Is Ben going to tell us who he's heard say that? I wonder.
Ben, can you get specific about what artists that have turned writers? They don't want to do anybody else's work.
Well, it's not someone else's work. I mean, like, obviously, if Alan Moore asked me to draw something that he really wanted to do, I would go, okay, Alan, we're doing this, because when am I going to get to work with Alan Moore?
Mm-hmm. If you mess up, we'll cast a spell on you, though.
Yeah, and so I can't screw it up. And but hold on a second. I don't know why my daughter's texting me. I understand what that means, because you sit there and now you've gotten used to being the starting point of the stories. So you're like, no, this isn't the way I do it. I mean, artists already change things when it gets to them anyway. Like, here's how I would do it. It's a collaboration. So to be suddenly thrown into the other part of the line, and then, yeah, it probably is really hard for a lot of writer artists. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't also be a pain in the butt about it either. So Ben makes a good point.
Okay.
You'd probably have more ideas on the writing side and trying to give certain ideas because you're so used to that aspect of it, of being involved in the writing. And so want to be part of that storytelling process.
Yeah, you're used to, like, the editors come to you and they say, we want to do something with this character, this kind of story. Can you give us some ideas? And sometimes, they're asking you to do a bake-off, and that's not ideal. And that's when you're competing with another writer and you don't realize it. You're all giving them pitches, and then they're picking through them to see which ones they like. And I'm like, I don't think that practice is great. I understand why they do it, but I feel they ought to pay people and let them know that that's what's happening. I just assume that's what's happening. Like, okay, it's like, if I've got the time, or if it's a thing that I actually do have strong opinions about, and then it's like, all right, I'll go ahead and do this. But a lot of times, if I think they're doing that sort of setup, I'm like, just ask me when you specifically want me, and not just because you're fishing around and want somebody to drop an idea in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a lot of your work that I want to talk about, but I know I want to, because I've already backed your Kickstarter, so I know I definitely want to hear about it.
Yes.
But I would be remiss if I didn't ask about your Aquaman run, because
good. No, I love talking about Aquaman. Please.
Oh, okay, good. Because my friend Giovanni Menendez is probably the biggest Aquaman fan.
I have seen Giovanni online. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's well known in the Aquaman community.
Pretty big Aqua fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Weekend Geekdom's Geo, and we'll ignore how awful these spines are together.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't. Yeah, that would really throw Monk into a conniption, wouldn't it? Yeah, like, why did they do that?
We asked that a lot with DC books.
Yeah.
But my question is, well, it's a two-part question. What Jeff Johns sort of reset Aquaman for New 52, and it was a really well-regarded run.
Mm-hmm.
So the two-parter is, was it hard to follow Jeff Johns, and is it hard at all to write Aquaman?
No and no. I was happy when I saw it. I was like, oh, he just kind of put back all the classic stuff. He brought in the horror element, like the trench creatures and all that stuff. And I was big on the fact that I didn't care about doing Black Manta or Orm anyway, because I'm like, good grief, how much can we see these guys? Like, let's develop some other Aqua villains and stuff. I was just happy, like, oh, good, he's with Mira. All the classic elements are here, so it was very easy to walk into for me. And then I just started trying to analyze, like, what can Aquaman do that other characters can't do? Like, what can't you do in the Batman book or Superman or something? And like, one of the things that hit me early on was, it's like, oh, everybody knows who Aquaman is. He never had a secret identity. It's like, and everybody where he grew up knows it's him and calls him Arthur. And then I thought, what if they went to his high school reunion? And because that's the one everybody comes up to me that they always like bring up to talk about. And I'm like, yeah, that's when I felt the book was really starting to hit its stride, because I was like, yeah, he's kind of like a rock star who decides to come back to his reunion and everything, but he's still like from this little Maine town. He's still a normal guy. It kind of helped that Paul Pelletier is actually from Maine, so I'd run stuff by him. Like, I was like, where's everybody work? And he goes, canneries. We put that sort of thing in there. Lobster boats and things. And then the other thing that really helped is like, yeah, and of course we get some sharks in there. How can you not? Pelletier can draw a fight like nobody's business, man. He's so good.
Oh, here he is at the reunion.
Yeah, there he is. Drunks who are asking him to play on their softball team or something or whatever, because they're thinking, oh man, we got a superhero on our team. We'll totally kill.
Well, look how good Mira looks too.
Yeah, Mira's in this crazy dress, just like, and it's just like a little small town high school reunion, and just imagine like these superstars show up at it and everything, but yet they're all kind of happy because they're all really proud of him, and they all find out. They ask him stuff about, when this weird thing happened back when like our families was having a hard time with our fishery, and then suddenly we found like all of this thing. He goes, yeah, I may have done something. Yeah, of course he did. He was constantly helping everybody. So you get the backstory, and the one guy who's like upset because, that was the friend of his who thought he abandoned him. He wanted to work with him on a fishing boat. Then there's the other guy who's like terrified because like he keyed Aquaman's car in high school.
That's the kind of idea where every writer is probably like, how didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
Is that this guy?
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, I was pretty proud of that. And I love the fact that Aquaman just has to mess with him a little bit and goes, and we get a little flashback to like the way he sees Aquaman, which is like bearded hook Aquaman and all this stuff. Or whatever. So he gives them this big speech, go forth and never do evil again, or whatever. I forget what it was or whatever. And the guy's like, lets him off the hook. And then she asked him like, do you even remember him doing this? No. Yeah. But it was super important. And it's obviously, this guy's been waiting for Aquaman to kill him for years. And then they hang out on the beach and have beer at the end. And I thought like, this is a cool thing Batman can't do. It's like, you lean into what the character, what is there, and not try to make them something they're not. I always thought Aquaman was a cool hero. Because I like going to the beach, and I always thought, wow, what if I could go hang out and talk to dolphins and whales and stuff? That would be amazing, and swim around and see undersea kingdoms. And that's what we do. And then I realized that John's like almost never touched upon anything about his mother at all. He only made it about his dad. And that's where I was thinking for the second big arc, well, that's what makes him Aquaman. It's like, he doesn't get special lighthouse keeper powers. He has the powers of Atlantis because of his mom. And
Lightkeeper.
And then I got the idea like, oh, what if she hadn't died? And, and then that leads us on that whole quest where he goes through Gorilla City and all these other places in search of it's just in search of mom is the basic story. And we got to have a fun fight with Gorilla Grodd. I love Gorilla Grodd and want to get him in every comic I ever write, even DC or no. Um, and then of course, what did they do? What did they pick out from the movie? They bring in those elements from the Maelstrom storyline, and then Nicole Kidman's up there playing his mom. And like, it's pretty cool.
Did you get credit for that?
I did not get name credit. I don't know if they added it later because I wrote to them and went, you used a lot of my story elements. And, and they put me in touch with the right people to talk to, and they did pay me, but I also had to be a squeaky wheel. They were not going out of their way. Your screenwriter guy read ahead, and he read into my volumes too, because there's several things in here that are from what we were doing. Paul Pelletier got credited, but because he was already on the book before I came on. Which is good. Paul should get credited, and Paul should get paid a lot because the guy is amazing. It ended up working out, and I'll be honest, I'm glad I bugged him because then the pandemic happened, and then a lot of projects got put on hold. So thank goodness I got a payout from the movie right before that happened, because that would have been it was a bad enough year for everybody. It helped me get by.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun behind the scenes stuff of how things work, if people want that.
Well, somebody check out Aquaman on HBO Max and go to the credits to see if they added them in.
Yeah. See if I got put back in. Damn it. I bet they didn't. But
maybe for the next Aquaman movie, they'll put it in.
Yeah. And we just, Shaner and I just did a story in the Aquaman 80th anniversary. I don't know if you saw that out. It came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's just a very simple, straightforward Aquaman story, but we sort of kind of bring together the current, more Jason Momoa type Aquaman along with our version from when I was doing it then. And just sort of, tie it all together. It shows like the same guy. And we bring back Salty the Aqua Dog. So it's got everything.
Yes. I could go on. I have a stack of books here that I want to talk about, and I know
I have something I wanted to mention before we get to my favorite thing that you've written. May not be the thing you're most well known for, but your James Bond.
Oh, thank you so much for reading those. I'm really proud of that.
We love all these James Bond comics.
We do,
and this one's very unique because all the rest of them are set in modern day. They're kind of like in the 21st century. This is the only one that's set in a historical setting in World War II.
Yeah.
So was that something that you brought to the table, that you wanted to do this? So they said, we want you to do James Bond, but in World War II.
They asked me, they knew, and I think editor Nate Cosby and the other Dynamite guys had been talking with the Fleming estate about doing something that was more connected to the original novels. And he really only later in the series, by Man with the Golden Gun, actually bothered to tell you a little bit about Bond's early years when he was a kid and where he went to school, which he pretty much based on himself. Look at all that Bob Q art. That's some great stuff there. All those mines. I love it.
This whole series was fantastic.
Yeah.
We both loved it.
Man, I don't know when I've had to do more research than for this, because I know a fair amount about World War II, but it's all from an American perspective. And so I had to really read up on things from the British perspective, because that's the way Bond would have been dealing with things. He's not in our battles, he's, they're specific to England. And so I did a lot of reading on things like that, a lot of research on trying to find good sources on the internet that I could trust. Library books, the whole thing.
Not your Wikipedia.
Yeah, not my Wikipedia, which at one point had me as the inspiration for the movie The Witch. Yeah, my Wikipedia occasionally becomes like a prank ground where people just put in fun facts till they get corrected, and they stay in there way too long.
That's not too bad in terms of being pranked on Wikipedia.
No, it's actually kind of fun to check in and see what somebody said I did. But yeah, I loved it. So, we went back to the whole thing. They gave me a very solid but very open timeline of okay, at this point, Bond would have done this. He would have dropped out of school and joined the war. So that was my first entry point. It's like, we realized like Scotland actually got bombed quite a bit by the Nazis. And, so that's about as good as an inciting event as you can have. One of James's good friends at school gets killed. And so he's like, F school, like I need to get in this war and start kicking butt, even though I'm just a kind of scrawny teenager who looks older than he is. And, but I tried, that was interesting because, I couldn't do all the classic Bond stuff. He's not going to be going around being smooth, wearing a tux, introducing himself by his last name. He's in the service most of the time. A lot of times he's in the Navy. And then we kind of bring him into the special operations, but sort of bounce back and forth because remember we've got to end up with him being Commander Bond at one point because that's when it's the one where he gets shot in the torpedo and then comes out in the sub or whatever, and they all salute him and Commander Bond. Or whatever. So, he's got this rank and he had to earn it. Anyway, I don't want to bore you with a bunch of details. You need to just read the book.
I agree. It's great.
It must have been pretty cool to be an American getting hired to write James Bond.
It is. It really is. And Bond was a big deal in our household when I was a kid. Like, it's one of the first movies I can remember going with my parents to the drive-in to see. And it was literally the first one. They went to the drive-in to see a re-showing because, I was born in '66, so I'm not around in '62, and if I was a baby, But so I'm a baby in '66. But anyway, they go and this is probably '70 or whatever to see Dr. No on a drive-in, where they hang the speaker on your car window and everything. Now they tend to have you just tune in your sweet sound system if there is a drive-in movie anywhere near you, which they're still really cool.
The pandemic kind of brought it back where people were going to see drive-in movies again.
Yeah, and then whenever new stuff would come out, I have strong memories of going to see Live and Let Die in the theater and everything. And even though I'm a little kid, and they probably thought I was going to pass out and go to sleep during it, I was just like, what's going on here? In my mind, Dr. No was all about this metallic sea monster and Bond's super friend Quarrel, who can get cut in the face and laugh about it.
Oh, Yafet Kodo?
No, this is in Dr. No. Yafet Kodo was Mr. Big.
Okay.
In Live and Let Die. I'm sorry, because I was just talking about Live and Let Die. I jumped back to Dr. No. Which I think is a beautiful looking movie if you go back and look at it. From Russia with Love is one of my favorites. And, it's got, if you like Captain Quint from Jaws, then you're going to love From Russia with Love because he plays Red Grant in that. And it's one of the best fight scenes in movies is him and Bond on the train just wailing on each other. It looks like a real fight. It doesn't look choreographed until the last minute when Bond pulls his jacket down behind him or anything. So yeah. Anyway, I really into that as an American. I was glad that the Brits trusted me, and at first they didn't. I was throwing ideas, and I could tell they were this was a bad idea. And then they started warming up to me as I turned in scripts because it's well, yeah, it's once I get into it, then I really do the imagining. And I don't really do it until I'm hired. And I remember when I turned in issue 6, and it's the one where Bond is he's trying to find a defected German scientist in oh gosh, where was it? Wait, you're holding it right up. Where are they? My God, I now I'm forgetting the setting. What city they're in.
I read it 6 months ago, so I'm having a hard time remembering what city it was.
I'm just glad you
Portugal. Portugal?
Yeah, they're in Portugal, in Lisbon. They're in Lisbon. Yeah, and the story is called Isabel. that was the one I just got back. Instead of getting a bunch of notes, they wrote back and just said cracking. And I was like, wow. I felt like, okay, I got them on this one, man. Like, and after that, they really trusted me, so, and there's a good chance we're going to pick up in 1942. So it's not necessarily over for young Bond and his World War II adventures.
Oh,
I
that
hate
is
the
great
fact that my
news.
dad's not still around, because it's the exact kind of book he would have loved. Like, it's got World War II, it's got James Bond, it's got everything that he was into.
Every dad's into World War II, so that would have been perfect.
Yeah, it's like it's the most dad book imaginable.
Well, my dad was in World War II, so
Wow,
wow.
That's
what theater of war was he in?
Let's see. He was also in the Korean War. I know. Unfortunately, he was part of that generation that wouldn't talk about it.
And just he had the best stories. You just didn't get to hear them.
And my brother and sister are both much older than I am, and so they may know more than I do. They knew about his service in Korea.
Uh-huh.
I think that I know he was in the Army, and I believe that he was stationed in South America.
Interesting.
If I remember correctly, he was with a unit that was in South America. I'm not sure what country. All I got out of him was that
Argentina, maybe.
Maybe it was during the war.
That makes the most sense.
Because they were also afraid at the time. The Axis was trying to get Mexico to turn against us, and they wanted to attack us from below.
Right.
So that's not surprising that they would station some people down there and try to go ahead and get ahead of that.
Right.
I'd love to.
That's
all I find out.
That's all I got out of him.
My grandfather didn't tell us anything until he was in his 90s. And he would do he'd be in planes taking surveillance pictures of islands in the Philippines and things like that.
Wow.
And he was, I remember one time my dad used to go there and watch movies with him, and they tried to put in Memphis Belle, and he said, "I can't watch this." And so we know something happened, but he would never talk about what happened there.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So yeah, again, it's similar to Jess's dad, where it's some things, but didn't want to talk about a lot of it.
That just means Jess's dad was into some stuff you wanted to hear and you didn't get to hear it.
I think you're exactly right, but my mom was more the storyteller. They both went through the Depression and World War II, at the same time period, and it was just hard to get my dad to talk about any of it. My mom had all the stories that she would talk about. She was very social. Even though my dad was a radio host and a TV host locally as I grew up.
That's where you got it from.
Yeah, he had more viewers than I do, though, I think.
Well, Jess used to be a TV host in the 90s.
Well, it's true, on my local cable channel.
Oh, cool. Where did your dad host?
In Monterey, in the Monterey Bay area. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
For about 20 years, he was a radio and TV talk show host.
Wow.
He was really good at interviewing people. I remember that. I don't know that I've picked up anything from him, except that I think he always felt that the person he was interviewing was more interesting than he was. So he always let them talk the most and tried not to step on them while they were talking.
It's good interviewing is this real subtle art. And a lot of people don't realize, some people will watch somebody and they'll see an interviewer they'll do the thing of babbling on about what they know and everything. And it's they're just wanting to show off they did the research. And it's I understand that. Everybody has that impulse. But the ones who are great, they just very naturally lead the subject into interesting territory, and you don't even see how they did it. It's almost like they just reached behind them and got their controls and, and it's and steered them on. So instead of getting those pat answers that everybody's used to throwing out. Suddenly they got to something real and got them talking. You know, that's always fascinating to me when somebody really knows how to do that.
Instead of asking, so where do you get your ideas? Every writer's favorite question.
That's the one end of the spectrum.
We are definitely not asking that.
Yeah. No, you guys ask very good questions. This is a great show.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel like Taylor and I always feel like our people tune in to hear our guest, not us. We have our own show regularly together, so they know who we are. Yeah. They want to hear you and your stories, which are already really interesting and great.
And I've been on some like you're describing where like the hosts just are so in love with their voices and then they don't let me say anything. And I'm like, why am I here?
Oh,
like,
no.
Yeah. You know, it's like, and then it's not just me. You could put on somebody way bigger than me and they'd still do it. You know, they're just like, whoa. You know, it's like, man, this is great. Guess what I ate this morning? Like, man, no one cares.
I guess I'll go to the bathroom for a little bit. I'll wait till he's done talking.
Well, and you led off with a Darwin Cook story, which is amazing. So how am I going to interrupt that?
I used to. Another thing. Yeah. Like when I was working in storyboards, before I started doing those storyboards we were talking about, when I moved out to California and was living in Los Angeles, I was working at Sony Animation because if you remember the late 90s, comics was really just bottoming out. You know, the whole spectator bubble had burst. Things were canceled left and right. And I was lucky to be getting those Paradox Press jobs, which aren't very long. And I was like, I can't make a living doing this. So I sent in a storyboard test to an editor that I had worked with before at Malibu Comics. And he was now working at Sony. And so I did the storyboard test and they said, oh yeah, you're great. Come on and work in. So I moved out west. I camped in my truck all the way there. And they put me back. I came in late and I was on do you remember the Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot cartoon?
Yeah.
I was working on that. Super fun, well-written cartoon. It was hilarious. And that's where I learned a ton about storyboards because, you know, you're just dropped in and you got to do it and it's got to work. But they didn't have any room with all the rest of the Rusty gang. So they sat me in the back room of the main floor where all the Men in Black cartoonists were.
And, I loved that cartoon. That was great.
And so I was back there. I made friends with all of them. And it's like, it was a great environment. It was really fun. You know, there's a lunchroom, all that stuff. But right around the corner from me was Darwin's office. Darwin had just left Warner and was working on Men in Black for a while. So like when he was in, I was always bugging him about stuff. Just like, hey, when you worked on the, you know, I was just asking him about different Warner cartoon stuff he worked on, and he was happy to tell me. So that was always like a fun thing. And then, you know, if you skip ahead a few years and I'm working a lot for Marvel, and then Darwin sees me at a show and comes up and hugs me and everything. So like, oh, you're doing all this great stuff. It's like, this is what, you know, and we'd catch up and all that, you know, so I didn't get to see him that much, but it was always great interactions with him.
Well, that's amazing. Darwin Cook. Wow.
Yeah. He's a modern master. Easy.
Yeah. I just want to highlight one of our viewers from Malaysia who always checks in with us.
No matter how early it is where he is, he's always watching.
And Farhan says, I will always be grateful for Agents of Atlas.
Oh, thank you, Farhan. Thank you so much. I loved working on that book.
He says, thank you, Mr. Parker. Peace and love from Malaysia.
And he's hiding from his boss right now, he said.
He is hiding from his boss.
Yeah, don't let him catch you, man, Farhan. That was like my editor, Mark Panicia at Marvel. He was flipping through. He was trying to figure out something to do new and different, like that. You know, he was just looking for cool projects to do. And he came across that What If issue where they got the what if there were, and It's like, there they are. Jimmy's a little big on there. That's Lee Neal Yu doing the art on that cover. By the way, I love Randall Park as Jimmy Woo. I think he's hilarious. And he showed me that. He goes, hey, like, what about this team with the robot and the gorilla and everything? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think we can do something here. So, I pitched Agents of Atlas, got it through eventually. Leonard Kirk did the first series. Yeah, there's Leonard Kirk's art. So we bring back Bob, the spaceman, and everything, the Uranian, Gorilla Man, Venus. And then I kind of picked around and realized, like, here's how I would have changed that original story. So I brought back Namora, because then I had a big gun, And also I went back and read the old Bill Everett Submariner comics. And I realized, like, they left her frozen in a block of ice. And I was like, I know what that means. When you leave a character frozen, you mean that they're going to pop back out later. It doesn't mean they're dead. It's so nice to see all that stuff again.
This book is so fun.
Oh, we had the best artist. That's where, there's Mr. Lowe, the dragon, who's kind of the advisor to the Atlas Empire. And the dragon, and I had this whole storyline with the dragons where, like, that I never really got to flesh out, but the idea that they all have dragon advisors and they're all secretly kind of controlling the world.
If I was a writer, I feel like I'd just constantly pop my books off the shelf and just go through all the art and everything. That'd be
awesome. Now that was where Roger Cruz, where we had them appear in X-Men First Class, which I was working on at the time too.
Oh, right.
Okay, right. That is in your Wikipedia. I remember seeing that.
Oh, good. At least something from this century is in there.
Yeah,
they get attacked by hippos. Because hippos are mean.
This book is so fun. It is just absolutely super fun, and what I think comic books are all about, and that is just relaxing entertainment. I'm all about the fun in books, and this book is excellent.
Oh yeah, that's where they're fighting the Avengers and everything, and
and
you'll notice every time I have them fighting the Avengers, it's like we've always got it in for Wolverine. He always gets really hurt because I was just like so sick of Wolverine. So like there's this one fight where the human robot just puts this boulder on top of Wolverine because Wolverine's not super strong. All he can do is lay there with this stupid boulder on him and kind of take him out of the fight. And he's just mad and he's trying to kind of cut it from the sides or whatever. But, what can you do? And it's like everybody makes Wolverine too tough. It's like, it's not hard to take Wolverine out of a fight. Come on. He needs to breathe air. Whatever. Just get him out of there.
So let's talk about your Kickstarter.
Yes. It is called Blighter.
And if anybody wants to, it is a clickable link in the description. What is Blighter about?
Blighter is about, as I kind of say in my little wacky video at the beginning where I'm walking my dog. If you watch the video, did you watch the video?
No, I just blindly pledged.
I love people like you. You just blindly. That's what I like to hear. But anyway,
that's how Jeff buys everything blindly.
That's how I roll.
That's the best way to do it. Just
Jeff Parker backed.
Go with your gut. No, but I talk about the fact that modern monster movies now or horror movies are often like set in the woods, and there's always saying like you can't talk or you can't look at the things and they'll attack you. Like, where are all these weird creatures that aren't explained coming from? And we explain that they are coming from another dimension called the old world. And there is this big tiger man named Blighter who is hunting them. Essentially what I say thematically is like, did you ever watch the Disney Jungle Book, the original?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, many times.
From the 60s, which I love. It's one of my favorite all-time cartoons. It's essentially, what if Mowgli were a girl instead of a boy, but he's still a little Indian kid, and instead of teaming up with Bagheera and Baloo, teamed up with Shere Khan, and they killed monsters. That really kind of gets you to the premise pretty fast. And that's what's happening. There's this girl, Arvi. Her parents were killed when she's tiny, and she doesn't realize it, but she's kind of been marked almost psychically by that attack. So that a lot of these other creatures that are all over our planet now, like sense her and seek her out. So she can't even be placed in an orphanage or with a home before it gets destroyed. Something always comes after her. So she's very much a survival mode kid, and she's found ways around, like she puts this skull of one of the monsters that she found on her head, and it kind of helps hide her sort of scent or whatever she's putting out that they're picking up on. And she gets sent to America, and that's where she runs into Blighter, who's running around appearing as one of us with a holographic kind of disguise, except he has so little regard for our society that he won't do any research. You know, he acts just like his world is all like classic Victoriana. They're kind of like the height of the British Empire, you know, when they were colonizing everything and acting superior. And that's very much who Blighter is. You know, he's like the great hunter because he's a tiger. And, you know, what he really wants to do is kill things. And this job gives him that ability, you know, but yet he won't bother to look at our maps or listen to our broadcast or anything to just kind of figure out basic stuff that would help him do his job. So she sort of fills in the gaps as a human who knows how to be a human. She's like, no, let's do this. Go here. This is where the thing you're looking for is, you know, and she's like, he actually is really good at what he does when he can stop talking about himself. So he's just a big ego going around. And it really is. It's fun to write his dialogue because he spends half the time talking about himself and how, like, they probably won't be here. They're probably already terrified hearing I was coming, that sort of thing. And after you write a bunch of like really good, honest heroes, it's fun to write somebody who really kind of should be the villain, but is just technically the hero. That's what I enjoy about it. Working with Drew Moss. He's finishing up a project now, and we'll be starting on it soon. His art is really impressive. He's been doing a lot of Dynamite stuff lately. He just came out in one of the Red Sonja stories. Rosh Gucci-Anil is doing the coloring, and Ariana Mar is lettering. And but right now we're kind of waiting. So like, I wish we had done a little more art to show people, but this is one of those cases where I do feel like I want to draw some. So I may write a story just for myself, just to have a little extra story to go with it that I'll either put out digitally or maybe we'll fit it in the book or something, just because he's too fun to draw. I've done some, if you look on the latest update, there's some sketches I did of Blighter on there, and you see him kind of dressed up as if he's going on safari, and, you know, he's going out a monster hunting. So
does he talk with an English accent?
Yes, very much. A big. Here's how he talks to me, Jess. You know Matt Berry, who's on What We Do in the Shadows.
I love that show. It's fantastic.
I haven't seen that.
Art Coast of London. In my mind, he's just got Matt Berry's voice. This big, booming, really arrogant voice.
The movie and the TV show are both fantastic.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
The TV show is hilarious. It's so good.
That's what I've heard. I have so much television I need to watch.
Everybody does. It's too much. It's crazy. What are you watching?
Right now, I just started Squid Game.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
It's on Netflix. I believe it just dropped maybe a couple weeks ago. It's Korean, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's this guy's in debt, and he agrees. He's this Korean guy in Korea that's a gambler. He owes a lot of money, and he agrees to go to try and earn money playing games. And the first game, and he wakes up.
Oh wait, I think I have heard of this.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody else was talking about this recently. Okay.
I just saw the first episode, and they gas him, and he wakes up with almost 500 other people, and they play this game of red light, green light. And if you move at all after red light, they kill you. They shoot you. Boom, you're dead. And it's this real life, and I mean, people are getting gunned down right and left. You already see it in the preview, so I'm not spoiling anything. Okay. But it's amazing. I mean, I was just like, what is happening here? All and right. Of course, the guy is terrified, but these, I don't know. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable with it, because these people are just dying left and right in a game of red light, green light, and it's set up like
that's wild.
Is it like comedic, or is it like played so serious? Okay.
Oh yeah, no, it's completely serious, 100% serious, which makes it really scary. And it's in a facility that's like out of James Bond. I mean, with characters that are very creepy, with their faces covered in a uniform. It's very like a dystopian future type thing happening now.
Cool.
I am all in on this. After seeing this, I can't wait to see what the next game is, because the survivors move on to the next game.
All right, and you said it's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds kind of like The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah.
These guys can act.
Oh, come on,
man. He may not be a great actor, but he's a great entertainer. Come on.
I knew you weren't going to like that.
Let's totally skip that. Jeff, are you watching anything good right now?
I love Running Man. It's like, and hey, Richard Dawson was great in that.
Richard Dawson was great in that.
Let's see. What am I watching? Like everybody else, I watched Ted Lasso.
That's the best show on right now, in my opinion.
I'm not caught up, so I'm like a couple behind everybody, so don't say anything.
I won't say anything. I'll just say it's one of the best shows I've watched in the past 5 years.
Good. Yeah, like I'm only a couple behind on the new ones. Let's see. I've been watching Reservation Dogs. That's really interesting. Like, and it's these teens who live on a reservation. They're native kids, and it's produced by Taika Waititi. Make the connection back to What We Do in the Shadows and a lot of Hunt for the Wilder People, stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and as people have pointed out, it's like it shows you like, it kind of gives you almost a vibe of like if you used to read the Hernandez brothers' Love and Rockets. It kind of like, it feels a little like that, except they're not that sophisticated. They're really just teens. But they're spiritual. There's like weird mystic elements in the show.
Oh,
but they're not played as anything particularly weird. It's just like, it's just part of our culture. I see some spirit guy sometimes. And it's no bigger a deal than like these two little guys who ride around on banana seat bikes all the time, or whatever, who are just short guys, and it's like who rap while they go around. It's really funny. What else have I been watching? I watched a show, Lodge 49, on Hulu that I really liked. Almost nobody saw that, but Wyatt Russell, who's Kurt Russell's son, is the lead in the show, and now he's got a lot of more attention as being U.S. agent in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh, that's who that is? That's Kurt Russell's son?
Yeah, he was great in
that.
Once you know he's Kurt Russell's son, you can't miss it.
He looks I liked him in the movie Overlord.
He's got his eyes. He's everything. He's just like him.
Did you ever see the movie Overlord that he was in? It was like a World War II zombie movie.
No, that's the one I keep forgetting about. Thanks.
We'll go back to the James Bond book. Since you like World War II, it's really a great movie.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I knew there was a movie he was in that I like completely forgot about. I would like to see that one. But yeah, now that his profile's been raised by being in, Falcon and Winter Soldier, maybe you'll get to go back and do a little more of that show because like you wanted to, because it's really good. It's very Thomas Pynchon-esque. Yeah, I can't think of anything. I don't know what else I'm watching now.
There's too much to watch.
Yeah, it is. This is so much. It's. I never thought we'd be at this point where there'd be a zillion good TV shows and I couldn't watch all of them. That's weird.
Oh, you and I grew up in the period where there were three channels. And they were in. I know. Taylor's heard me tell this story.
PBS. Yeah.
And the American flag would play with the national anthem.
When
I still wish like TV would sign off at night. Like everybody needs to go to bed. And people don't need to be up watching TV all night.
Instead of all the infomercials they show instead.
Taylor can't believe me when I tell him that when I was little.
Well, I believe you. My mom told me about it.
Yeah, I know it, but you always are amazed then when I told you the TV went off at midnight or 1.
Yeah.
And the screen the screen test thing.
Yeah, test pattern would be.
Test pattern, yeah. And the national anthem would play, and boom, television was off until 6 a.m.
Go to bed. Yeah.
Right.
Or have something to do. Go listen to albums. Or something.
And it was black and white, and I didn't find out that Wizard of Oz was in color until about 1970 when 72.
Now that was crazy.
Color TV.
That was crazy to me when you told me that.
Yeah.
How tragic. You were talking about the other kids at the lunch table and they're talking about the colors. And like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it was I remember it was 3rd grade. And back then Wizard of Oz came on once a year.
Yeah.
And that's how you got to see it. And if you missed it, you had to wait till the next year.
Yeah, wait till next year. And then you'll see Wizard of Oz. That or the 10 Commandments. So these movies that would always come on.
Exactly.
Like at which I got, they'd always show 10 Commandments, around the holy days. But Wizard of Oz wasn't particularly shown at, it wasn't like a Halloween movie or anything. I'm trying to remember what time of year they would show it.
I feel, yeah.
I'll look it up.
I feel like it was like April, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But I remember sitting at the lunch table and this kid behind me said, it was so cool when Wizard of Oz went from black and white to color. And I turned around and said, what do you mean it went into color? It's black and white. And he said, no,
only for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Oz is in color. And I'm like, it is? And I went home and complained to my parents and they were like, well, that's the way it is. We're not getting a color TV. Sorry, kid.
Funny that your dad was a TV host. You think he'd want like an updated TV?
Yeah, you think he could go shake down some Zenith dealership or something? Say, come on, I'm on all your TVs. Give me a TV or something.
Apparently, it played on Thanksgiving every year. It says because it ties into the message of being thankful for what we have.
Wizard of Oz played in Thanksgiving time?
That's what Google's telling me.
Wow, I don't remember that.
That makes sense. Though, Dorothy's a little too thankful at the end. Like, she totally takes the wrong lesson from everything because she's going, and I'm never leaving home again. I'm staying put. I'm not, I'm not going out again. Like, whoa. We didn't say you can't. One, you didn't go anywhere in the first place. You've just been here knocked out in your bed the entire time.
Which I did not pick up on until I was about 15.
What, that she didn't go anywhere?
Yeah, you never went anywhere. So
I thought she went somewhere.
Yeah, she's all upset and like, no, I'm staying here. I'm probably going to marry one of you farmhands or something.
We're like 10 years older.
I don't remember her saying that part. Maybe that's in the extended cut.
I may be embellishing.
I might have been 20 by the time I figured out that she was just staying in the bed.
Yeah, because she gets the creepy part. They did some good effects for 1939. Yeah. Because like when you see the witch pedaling by or whatever, and that's kind of floating by, and the tornado looks great. It's impressive stuff.
Yeah.
But imagine what that was like in the theater. And, so you're watching it in black and white or silver. I mean, there's a reason they called it the silver screen because it really was, it all looked slightly silverish. Or whatever, with the kind of film they had. and what they were projecting on or whatever. That's again why they call it silver screen and why
I didn't know that.
Everything seemed a little more magical and bigger than life before you got to see what they really looked like. So Errol Flynn probably seemed like a space alien to everybody, and then when it burst into color when they get to Oz, people probably were just flattened in their feet. Just imagine that. And then the ruby red slippers are really just.
It's crazy to think that movie was made before World War II. That's just kind of weird to even think about. Like this, how, like you said, how technically accomplished it was.
Oh yeah, yeah, and just like one of my other old favorites, the original King Kong. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's stop motion animation, but it looks terrific.
Back then, it looked amazing. I bet.
And also when you hear from like readings of old audiences. Apparently, in the original Frankenstein, people were screaming and passing out when they first see the monster because it's like the makeup's pretty good. It's Boris Karloff with his little stuff and everything and his bolts, but it was freaking people out. It was the scariest thing they'd ever seen.
Like the original silent movies where the train's coming at the screen and people run out of the theater because they think a train's actually gonna run them over. Things like that.
Coming into the theater. This is crazy.
The silent train with no noise is gonna hit me.
This little man is being worked up through a giant thing of gears and cogs. What's going on here?
This may be the best tangent we've ever had with a guest.
Okay, wait. That was Harold.
You're getting it.
No, he did his own stunts.
Yeah. Actually, they all did. So did Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, I think.
Yeah.
Harold Lloyd.
Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. No, that was a music.
Lloyd.
He's telling you, Jess.
Oh, Harold Lloyd.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the Minister of Comics saying that, trying to throw me off.
I would never do that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to trick you. It really is Harold Lloyd.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And also, who was the other besides him and Buster Keaton? There was seemed like there was someone else that was really Buster Keaton's amazing. If you were to watch The General and some of those old things, you're going, oh God, how do these guys not get killed? They would literally do anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, you jump on this moving train and do some stunts.
Right.
It's insane.
When you see the clock scene and you realize what he was risking, now you look at it and it's really actually scary, but it's a remarkable feat of risking it all. I mean, hats off to Tom Cruise. Whatever you think of him, doing his own stunts, those are loony stunts.
Hanging off a plane, hanging off the tallest building in the world. It adds so much more to the film and makes the stakes so much higher. So having that is awesome.
Yeah, but there are real stunt people who are really good at this. And you hear also all the time of actors like, I'm going to do my own stunts. Immediately twist their ankle, and then production has to sit around.
Yeah, you see Tom Cruise in the last Mission Impossible. You see the scene where he broke his foot jumping across the building. You see him smash it. Yeah, and you can really tell.
Like, Tom, let someone else do the jump, man. It's like, it's like that's what these guys live for. Like, let them get paid. It's like it's not that important. It's not that big of bragging rights. Though, you can always tell when suddenly you're looking behind somebody and they got a weird wig or something.
Yeah,
you're the wrong
that's what it is more for me than anything else. It's just you can tell a lot of the time.
Yeah, but
I wish I had been there like you guys were for Evel Knievel and seeing that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I remember that on like Wide World of Sports all the time.
Yeah. You could watch Evel Knievel break several bones live on TV at any time. He just kept going back for more.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of those things that was on the 3 channels was Wide World of Sports, and they would show Evel Knievel jumping 35 cars or something. And not only was that amazing, but it was the risk he would take because he never landed perfectly. He always landed and busted up everything. I mean, I think he bragged that he broke every single bone in his body at one point.
Yeah. I believe him. Just imagine the painkillers he must have been on late in life. And Wide World of Sports would always show you the agony of defeat.
Yeah.
You'd see a guy skiing down a slope and he'd suddenly, boom, go tumbling. And every time you wince, like it was just painful.
Yeah. Do you know what we're talking about at all, Taylor?
You lost me after Evel Knievel.
This was just some poor schlub who was skiing and fell.
It was but it's a spectacular fall.
It's a crazy fall. It was they never took it out of the lead in on that. It was always showed every week.
What was the part before agony of defeat? Because that was the the thrill of victory.
Yeah,
right on.
And
man.
the literal agony of defeat.
Yeah. You're right, Taylor. This is an awesome tangent that we're going on with our guest. This is amazing.
I can't think of a better tangent we've had.
It's always good to get on a tangent. That's where the interesting stuff happens.
Well,
that's where you talk about how entertaining it is to watch people hurt themselves on
TV. We all watch that kind of videos on YouTube or on TV. It's just it's baked into our DNA to for some reason enjoy people getting hurt.
I guess that's the origins of stuff like Jackass now,
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what if we purposely tried to get hurt? Like, you people are nuts. Then they do it.
Oh, poor Johnny Knoxville. He is practically a cripple.
The new one looks really funny. I saw the trailer for it, and they're like, it's really bad to get a concussion after you're 50. Good thing Johnny Knoxville is 49 years old.
Yeah.
Now I have to text my daughter for a second. So just a sec.
Everybody.
We have Flush Jackson in the chat who said he backed your Kickstarter tonight. So you got someone backing you. And
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
If you guys are interested in Blighter, go to Jeff's Kickstarter and back it. And sounds like a really awesome book that we're all looking forward to.
It'll probably be out next kind of late spring, almost early summer. It's like we're setting it way out because we don't want to make a bunch of promises we can't back up. It's like it'll take some time, but don't worry. It's like put out everything else I've ever worked on, so it's coming. And again, if you get it digitally, you'll probably get it sooner. I also urge everybody, like overseas, it's like shipping rates right now are crazy. They're all over the place. So like order digitally. Like you guys don't have room in your places anyway. Just get it on the computer. And then don't let the computer die like I always do. And then you can't get it.
Oh, is this Evel Knievel saying this? He said no stunt was worse than his marriage. That's a long story on effing peanut allergies OmniDog.
We have a lot of people pretend to be fake OmniDogs in the chat, and they have different pictures of Jess.
Oh, so is this a recurring thing, fake OmniDogs?
Yes. Yeah,
right.
And usually
there's at least 15.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
This is a reference to last night on a different show where I was on fire the whole night, and somebody brought up peanut allergies, and I think I must have said the F word, saying they didn't even exist when I was a kid, and all of a sudden I had a kid, and I had to be careful not to serve peanut butter at parties because there were so many peanut allergies all of a sudden.
You know where they don't have, this is going to sound like we're going to veer off into wild conspiracy, but you know where they don't have peanut allergies?
Japan.
Australia. Yeah. They eat a ton of peanuts. And apparently, and this is not me looking confirmation bias searching through YouTube. I read this in some reputable source, but again, I'm being no good because I can't remember where I read it. But it was talking about, they were doing research. It's like, well, how come Australians don't seem to have this problem that everybody else is getting? And it turns out they just simply give their kids peanut butter a lot earlier. And as a kid growing up in the South, yeah, I'm sure they jam peanut butter in my face almost immediately. Making noise. And
wash it down with iced tea.
Yeah. And I mean, it may not be it could obviously be something tied to the way the crops are done now or something, it's often things like that. Cause a lot of people I know, they can't eat gluten. And I'm like, God, I think I'd freak out if I couldn't eat wheat. But I understand it's a real thing for people, but apparently the peanut thing is simply got something to do. I know it sounds a little holistic, like hoo-ha, but apparently it has something to do with being exposed to it and going without it. But I had a friend. Yeah, he got. I remember one time when I was living in LA, and we were out eating at this place, and they had peanut oil in something, which is a good thing he wasn't around me when I was frying turkeys and the stuff. But, oh man, his face started swelling up. It was crazy. So yeah, I feel like there's probably some stuff we're not getting. There's something to it, but apparently Australians are laugh at our peanut allergies.
Wow.
But I won't make anybody feel bad. But I do like them on airplanes, and I much prefer them to pretzels.
Here's a compliment. This has been a great interview, and that is not true. I do not love Weezer. This is a guy trolling me.
Hey,
it's the same.
Come on, man. They did a cover of Africa. Come on. I enjoy Weezer. I'm with you, man.
Nope, I cast no aspersions on you. You are on this show. You are no judgment. You are free to love whoever you love.
Like Rivers Cuomo. I'm not like a Weezer super fan or anything. I just like them. Okay.
Yeah, it's cool with me. All is well here. All are welcome.
Like, what other bands do you hate, Jess?
Oh, controversy's about to erupt on the collected editions community.
I can like things, and people don't have to like the same things as me.
Right.
So
Same. I don't mind if somebody loves something I don't. I mean, I do.
Except for Creed or Nickelback, right?
Well, those bands are not my favorite. No, it's okay with.
I'm with you, man. I can't stand Creed or Nickelback.
If you want to have a good laugh tonight, look up YouTube and look up The Last Creed Fan.
Okay.
And they're like, it's like they're trying to protect the Last Creed fan, like he's an endangered species. And they want to mate him, and they want to mate him with a Nickelback fan. It's really funny.
Wow, that's brilliant. I'm kind of jealous of that.
That would have been a good one-shot comic.
I appreciate the fact that Nickelback seems to kind of like they get that, they get people give them a lot of shit, and they sort of roll with it, and like, yeah, we're Nickelback. What do you expect? What do you expect us to do? But
I can't think. Well, you put me on the spot about who else I hate. Let's see. I like an awful lot of music, and I have a huge.
Yeah, I shouldn't have led negative. I should have said, "Well, who do you like? Or like, is there any older acts that you've like been going back and listening to a lot again, or new or anything?"
Well, I listen to the Ramones a lot.
Oh yeah.
The
Ramones.
I saw them twice in concert, and the original lineup, and I just really, really love them. I never got to see the Beatles. I did know a person that did get to see the Beatles. My sister got to see Jimi Hendrix, so I thought that she was pretty cool there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You guys were in Monterey. You got to see
exactly,
and you were near the Monterey Jazz Festival. So
she used to go to that too. She went to the Monterey Pop Festival in '67. It was
everybody was there.
Yeah, the Who was there.
Wow, I saw the Who, but I saw them as the old Who, a few years ago.
Same.
They don't go under that name now. I'm just saying it's like
now you're seeing half of the Who.
Exactly. I wasn't seeing all the Who, but I was seeing Pete and Roger.
Now Ben,
did you ever see Fleetwood Mac?
I did not, but I do like them.
I mean, it's just like, I just thought it was a Southern California thing. Maybe you got to see them when.
Well, I was Northern California, but I have a great deal of respect for, especially. Well, I have old Fleetwood Mac albums, but I have a great deal of respect for what Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham did for them in making them how big they became.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Here's Ben Uncles trolling me because this is probably my favorite Echo and the Bunnymen album, Ocean Rain. So thank you, Ben, for the shout out for Echo and the Bunnymen, one of my all-time favorite groups.
Well, this ties into a question we like to ask all of our creators. Whenever you write, whenever you draw, do you listen to music or do you in silence?
I do listen to music. Like lately, I've been on an Amy Mann jag. I've been listening to just nonstop Amy Mann. I think she's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, I've heard the song so much that I don't have to like get distracted and start singing along with it. I can work. That's why a lot of people I know, they'll work with soundtracks on, because then if it's too invasive, then they have to work in silence and everything. So I get that. Like I love putting on something like Ennio Morricone or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite score from him that you like to listen to?
Well, the good, bad, and the ugly. I mean, it's I never get tired of it. I know it's the one everybody knows, but a few years ago, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, like the producer Danger Mouse.
Yeah, I know.
And part of Broken Bells. He did Broken Bells with what's his name of the Shins.
Yeah. I love the Shins.
Yeah,
but I can't pull the name.
So anyway, the two of them together are Broken Bells. But anyway, Danger Mouse, he produces a lot of stuff. He's great, and he always goes for a sort of retro vibe. And he went to Italy, and he found like a lot of those musicians and singers who worked with Morricone, and got them in and did like that Norah Jones. It's mostly Norah Jones, but I think Jack White is on it. And now I'm forgetting the name of the album.
The chat is helping us out. Peter Mercer.
Thank you, man. Uncles, what would we do without you, man? It is Mercer. So anyway, like they did that album with that because he had clearly recorded a ton of tracks with them doing all kinds of cool things, and he worked it in some of the Broken Bell stuff, and he worked it into the one Black. It's the album Black, and they use it, if you remember, on Breaking Bad. Did you watch Breaking Bad when it came out?
That's one of Taylor's favorites.
I have my poster back here.
Poster there.
Well, remember the end of season 4 when they find out the little kid's going to be okay, but he must have touched some plant because he got poisoned. And then you see Walter sitting back there by his empty pool. And as the camera pushes in, it goes by that plant, and you realize Walter was the one that poisoned. And and that's where you get like, oh, Walter's even more evil than I thought he was, And they start playing that song. Then the song is Black, but I can't remember the name of the stupid album, and it's irritating me. But it's Norah Jones and Danger Mouse and all of those Morricone people doing all these cool little, sounding like they're out in the West while Clint Eastwood's about to shoot somebody.
I always loved
with Eli Wallach and
yeah.
I always loved the Untouchables score that he did. Even The Thing. He did The Thing. And that was a much maligned score when that movie came out, but it's brilliant. It's awesome.
The whole movie is just, I love it. Man,
the whole movie was hated when it came out, but it's one of the best. I'm trying to watch a lot of horror movies in October that's coming up, and that's definitely one I'm going to rewatch.
It's one of the weird things where I don't know. I have a big connection. I love the original Howard Hawks 50s movie. I just think it's great with James Arness playing The Thing. But I also love the Carpenter one, a whole lot with Kurt Russell. I mean, it's just great. It's a totally different sort of the way they do the monster, since it can keep changing. But like, it's so tense when that dog goes into the kennel with the other dogs and sits down. And then you realize like they didn't do any CGI for that. Like that dog's just trained. Because he walks down the hall and he keeps looking in rooms. And it's an alien. He's looking, just checking each one out. They're just telling the dog to do that. And it's like, God, this dog's a great actor. and then he goes in there and sits and then starts exploding into what the thing is. And then the little scene where I was describing this to somebody the other day. I was saying, no, there's a scene where Kurt Russell is talking to he's either talking to Wilford Brimley or somebody, but over on the kind of off to the side, they're not focusing on it, but you see that head on the floor, and then you see the legs pop out, and then it gets up and skitters away. Oh man, I lost my mind in the theater watching that.
Here's the answer for you. Danger Mouse album is called Rome.
It's like, oh, I keep saying Italy, and I keep saying, now I can't remember the word Rome. That's pretty bad.
The chat always helps out.
Thank you, Louis Panagakos, which like I assume is Greek, but you came through with the Italy thing, and like I'm glad you have a very informed audience here. This is really helping us out.
Yeah, I can always count on the chat when they're not trolling me to have the answer to questions.
Well, either way, it's fun.
It's all in good fun, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Louis.
Do you I'm a collector of a lot of things, and Taylor has now gotten into a new collecting habit of action figures. He's now considered an action figure collector.
Oh, okay.
There they are. He went from none to 30.
See, all I thought he had was a Breaking Bad poster, but now I know.
I got Raiders of the Lost Ark over there too.
Yeah, nice.
Do you collect anything?
No, in fact, I've always like really fought against it because just so many of my friends are big collectors, and I'm like, I know me because I can get obsessive about stuff. So if I start down that path, I'll just crowd the house with things. I can't do it. I really try to pare down. I don't claim to do a good job at it. No, but I still end up with stuff like I got a lot of bicycles. You know, I like working on stuff. I have to do physical things because I'm in my head all the time. So I work on bikes and cars a lot, and but I don't collect them. Well, I do probably have more just because I never get rid of them when people would normally sell something. So I could still clear out a few cars and bikes. So and replace them with something really cool, like a really cool car, you know. But yeah, that's by design. I just will not let myself collect.
Yeah, the way of collecting lies madness. That's for sure.
That way lies madness. There is no,
you were describing 2016 Jess earlier, but 2021 Jess is doing a good job of purging stuff.
I am. I'm curating my collection of everything, and I'm putting out videos of curating everything from books to statues and action figures. It's 2016 Jess was a crazy person, and I'm more mature now and realize that I have way too much shit. So I have got
I would just be you, man. It's like that's I'm always fighting that impulse. But and if I had ever taken care of like some of the stuff I took for granted, like when the first Alien movie came out, you know, even though I'm a kid, like I thought it was really cool, and I'd saved up some money from lawn mowing or whatever, and I bought the big figure
of the Alien.
Yeah, the big xenomorph.
Yeah,
and that thing's worth a ton of money now. But you know, I gave it to my little cousins and the Godzilla who could shoot his fist off and or whatever. All this stuff, like I had things like that, but I would just like, oh, here, you play with it, and then I'd just move on. And it's like if I had any collector gene in me at the time, you know, I'd be able to fund my Kickstarter just by selling this thing.
Well, Ben's back. He wants to know, you're a bike guy, Jeff? Are we talking motorcycle, bicycle?
No, I'm a bicycle guy. I like old though I do like cool motorcycles, like, you know, old Triumphs or Indians and stuff like that. But I never work on those. I have friends who do that. I like old just road bicycles, like I ride this old Schwinn Latour from the 70s. And it's probably because when I was a kid, I watched Captain Kangaroo and
yes.
Yeah, Mr. Green Jeans would always suddenly like come out and sell you a Schwinn bicycle all the time. Like that was their big sponsor. And it worked, man. Advertising works. I was like, Schwinn, they must be great.
Oh yeah.
You know, and of course now any old name you find or whatever, like even sadly, even like Cannondale and stuff, it's like it's just the name and it's been sold and it's made overseas or whatever. It's never the original company. Or Raleigh, you know, like I've had old Raleigh bikes. I think they're cool. They're built like tanks. Even though like I live in a really hilly area, so I try to get a lighter bike now because man, it's a lot of work getting up a hill. Keeps me active.
Yeah, good. We're putting bets on when OmniDog gets into another collecting hole. Who are you taking bets with? I want names. Don't just throw that out there in the chat, Cameron.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen until at least after we're done with the show and he can get on eBay again.
I do have a lot of eBay things open on.
It's and that's tough. Like you find something like you. I know what the impulse is. You get something, you remember something that existed that you thought was cool, and then you just kind of look it up casually online, and then you realize somebody on eBay has these things, and there you are. You're back in the crazy house. Just were there any more questions? Did anybody?
Let's see. I think. There. Let me go back because I think there were.
Yeah, I feel like I just babble so much. I don't even give people time to think of one.
No, you didn't babble at all. This has been great. I think you are a great guest because you've been super interesting. Oh, Tolga Burke, he doesn't have a question, but he is from. Tolga, where are you from? I always mix it up. Are you from the Netherlands? Or are you from?
It sounds like it.
We have a very international audience.
Yeah, and it's cool. Late there. It may be tomorrow morning. But Tolga's in the chat.
Good to see you.
I did have someone earlier at 9:12. So long time ago, Austin Caldwell asked about a Red Hulk omnibus.
Oh yeah, that is a good run.
Yeah.
I have it right here.
Now I want one. Yeah.
He said,
"Oh wow, you do have them all."
I do.
Yeah. Well, see, Giovanni, that's totally okay.
Gio said, Gio sold me these because I foolishly loaned them out to a former friend who then gave them to somebody else. And I was like, can I have my books back? And she's like, oh, I gave them away. So I had to rebuy them, I was just glad to be able to find them because a lot of these are out of print and hard to find.
Oh, yeah. That would be that'd be a pretty fat omnibus at this point, wouldn't it?
I would love an omnibus. And usually when I buy trades of things, they get an Omni. So here's hoping, especially Red She-Hulk. This was just for 2 trades. This was fun. This was really fun.
Oh, we had a blast with that. I got to work with my good buddy, Carlo Pagulayan, who was like the first artist almost like one of the first artists I worked with when I started working at Marvel. He and I got put on the Fantastic Four Marvel Adventures book, and he's just amazing. Look at that.
Yeah,
he makes everything dynamic, and the cool thing we got to do that you don't usually do when they decided to like, why don't we switch and quit focusing on Red Hulk and focus on Betty instead? You know, I said, well, how about we just keep Machine Man in the book, you know, and he's the same. He gets to like kind of be the consistent character throughout, and it kind of made it neat. So it kept a little continuity there for you. Yeah, that's where they visit Nikolai Tesla.
Yeah, not you two again. I just love this art of Red She-Hulk.
Oh, it's fantastic. We had some really good people on there.
And Banana Jester has
I was mad about is I wanted to call that first trade Big Bad Betty, but I got the name in too late and they had already named it whatever we called it. Yeah, Hell Hath No Fear. That's fine, but I was like, Big Bad Betty would have been more fun.
I don't know why this is the blurb. They should have had me do the blurb on the back of the book. A worthy read.
Wow, don't you just want to grab that?
I like this book.
Yeah, it should be
Comic
Omnidog's
It
Vault.
sounds even like they took it from a Thor book instead. Like,
Yeah. It should have been Omnidog's Vault. This is the bossest book I've read this year, and
yeah,
a worthy read. I mean,
that's terrible.
give me a break. This Red She-Hulk was fantastic. I loved all the Red Hulk stuff too was great. That was the first Red Hulk stuff I read in my life, and it was a great introduction to him.
Yeah, I liked kind of just turning the screws on Ross and like, hey, look, now you're in the situation you always put this guy in. Like, what? How do you like it, Ross? But then you get sympathy for him. You know, you kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of like when I've screwed up and I sort of made my own bed, and that was essentially what we were doing. Like we sort of went into, you know, in the Loeb series stuff, or before, you know, Red Hulk's going around pawning everybody essentially, for lack of a better word. He's getting in fights, picking up Thor's hammer by cheating and stuff like that. So we just kind of had him have a lot of payback at the first. And the thing I thought was neat as a character is like, you don't have to show them win. You just have to show how they react to it. And Ross just kind of took it, you know. He's like acting like a grown up. He's like, yeah, I had that coming, you know. So he got some serious beatdowns by Iron Man and Thor and everything at the beginning, and you know, but you didn't cry about it. And immediately it kind of turns you around on the character, and you sort of like him again. You go, oh, okay. It's like, and then we had the sort of the kind of building relationship with the android Annie. And I liked writing that stuff too. And Fordian, who's always chasing him, being his Ross, you know.
Right. I do know that there was one, I can't find it right now, but the question was something to the effect of, is there any character on your bucket list that you would like to write?
You know, I'd still like to really write a run of Superman. It's like, oh yeah, duh, pick biggest character from a big company, you know. But really, I feel like I could do a good run on Superman, and I'd like to just. I feel like he gets portrayed too much as a god. You know, it's like he's a little too much like hearing a hummingbird across the planet, blah blah blah, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could show him and like what it would be like to have these powers, but you know, you're still essentially affected, but you still can't do everything. So you're still, in a way, still just a man. I felt like the Christopher Reeve movie did that the best when Pa Kent dies in the field. And that's where they really screwed up in the Man of Steel movie. It's like with this tornado, like, oh no, he needs a more badass way to die. No, it's like,
don't save people.
Yeah,
don't help people.
Constantly saying, stop saving people. You don't want to do this. Why? Reasons, you know.
Reasons.
But when Pa Kent just has the heart attack and everything, and Clark's helpless, like, yeah, that's when he's like us. Like, there's nothing he can do about it, you know. And it's like, you know, so being Superman does him absolutely no good at that moment, and it's just the connection point. So anyway, you know, I have Superman opinions.
And they're doing that Superman 1978 series continuation.
Oh yeah,
maybe you can do something like that. You did Batman 66, so
yeah. I'm trying to watch it on all the, like, I'm getting pegged as the retro guy, and
okay.
It's fine. I love that the cover. I forget the artist's name, but he did it. That's the Mondo poster that they used for that.
Yeah,
it's terrific.
Do I have? I'll have. Where do they have
everybody in that series? It's great. The nice thing with that is every artist was coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, this show was super important to me as a kid. This was what got me into comics. So Jim Chadwick, the editor, and I would, you know, we'd go through and let's see who kind of fit and everything. And then I would just talk to the artist and I'd say like, well, which episodes did you like? Who'd you like? What'd you like about it? And I'd kind of tailor the things for them, and bring it. And then when we got to do the point where we could do the villains who weren't in the show, but as if they were in the show, then it was really fun for me.
His name is Martin Anson. Martin Anson was the Mondo poster guy.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was a much longer name than that, but it's a killer poster, though. I'd love to have that as a big print.
And I like that it says created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. That's important to me.
Yes, get that Bill Finger in there, damn it.
Yeah.
Did you actually have a super chat as well?
I saw that, and it's actually pertains to your Superman run. But I love the colors in this whole book.
Oh yeah, so much of it is established by the first story we did. It was me and Jonathan Case, and if you remember, at the time we were doing it digital first, so it had like little extra layers and levels to it, where like you'd have to scroll through, and then there'd be a sound effect going blam, and then you'd scroll that out of the way, and it worked really well for that format. But we'd have to also figure out how to make it work for the comic. And of course, just like the TV show, I started with the Riddler because Frank Gorshin really kind of set the tone of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like his over-the-top Riddler is really what influences the Joker. Weirdly enough, because the Joker had always been a kind of it's like, I don't know. He got way more Gorshin-y after that point. Because if you watch Frank Gorshin, he's jumping all over the place and he's getting down on the floor and they're having to move the camera to wherever he is. And it made it very dynamic. And then that sort of set the way they did the whole show. Gorshin could do anything. He was a Rat Pack guy. He could dance and sing and smoke and drink at the same time. It's just
he almost got the Frank Sinatra part in From Here to Eternity.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been weird? He probably could have. He probably could have pulled it off. He
got into a car accident on his way driving across country to do the audition, or I think they may have had. He may have actually had the role, and he was going to Los Angeles to shoot the movie, but he got into a car accident on his way there, and then I think that's when they put in Frank Sinatra, which made it a completely different movie.
Nice, good break for Frank Sinatra. Weird thing about Frank Sinatra is he's a better actor than you expect him to be. He actually is a good actor,
right?
And I like his acting really better than his singing, and that's probably an unpopular opinion, but it's like I do, Neither of them could have played Burt Lancaster's part, but
no. Here is a super chat from Vigilante Danny. I'd actually read Superman if you wrote it.
That's one. Thank you, Vigilante Danny. Now we got this one. Now we got him. We got.
Pretty sure everybody in the chat would.
Oh yeah,
as well.
We're all interested in that. James had a question for you. If you had a chance to bring back any animated or TV series as a comic, what would you choose? An animated series or just a TV series?
This isn't going to go where you think. I
Dream of Jeannie?
No. Wow. That really wasn't going where I was thinking. Though why not? Because
or a Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie crossover.
Yeah, that would be the obvious thing. I feel like I've contributed to the mashups way too much. And they're kind of in a way they're kind of evil, and I'm going to pay for that one day. But what I'd like to do, but it'd be a kind of big job, and you couldn't have one person working on it all the time. You'd have to keep switching teams. But it would be so great if they would do a Columbo comic, and just everybody I know, every comics person I know is into Columbo, and they all have big Columbo opinions. But you'd have to spend some real time on those stories to get that mystery right and everything. But think of all the great artists you could bring in. Oh man, like Greg Smallwood, who's working with Tom King right now on the Human Target thing.
Oh yeah,
he would kill on that. Or
getting Sean Phillips from him and that Brubaker fame doing a Columbo comic. It'd be hard to get that turn in comic form though. Just one other thing.
Do it. Those guys could pull it off easily. I know they could. That would be so good. The one more thing, and you get to draw the dog. It'd be great.
Let's see. We have, and are you on any time schedule? We've had you for a long time.
Yeah, I do have to go eat.
Okay. Let's end on one more question then, and
okay.
then we'll promote the heck out of your stuff and let you go eat. From Simeon, Jeff, you seem to have an interest in history. Any interest in writing comics about historical topics like the Marvel 1602 stuff?
Oh yeah, thank you for noticing that, Simeon. I did when I did the 1602 book that he's talking about. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it's it was picking up after the Neil Gaiman 1602 series, and they had done a little bit more, and I thought it kind of drifted off of it's like Gaiman was actually sticking to history here, and I wanted to get back on that. The only thing I changed that I thought was I wasn't big into that Neil had done was come on, he changed Parker's name. I mean, yeah, I take it a little personally to Parquois or whatever, but it's no, the name was always Parker. It's it's an old name for the groundskeeper or the guy who takes care of the horses. It's just a Scottish name. So I put that back and I said that he changed his name to try to elude somebody somewhere in the series. But, we get a lot of wacky things. I did some real research on that book. And at the time I was reading the Aubrey Maturin series, the Master and Commander. Please tell me you guys have watched Master and Commander. It's one of the
great.
Okay, he did.
I saw it, back in 2003, I think it came out. Because he got steamrolled at the Oscars by Return of the King, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Jesse, please watch it. It's so good.
Okay.
It's one of the best Russell Crowe movies, and he's in a lot of great movies.
It's easily the best Russell Crowe movie. And what's his name? Vision.
Paul Bettany.
Yeah, Bettany. I'm oh, now Marvel's totally got me. I'm calling him by the robot name now. It's got Russell Crowe in the Vision. It's so good and it's so well researched and but it's action packed all the way through. I mean, they really show you what it would have been like out at sea fighting the French. I was watching that. So there's one issue of 1602 where Peter is going back to Europe. And he runs into Wilson Fisk, who's a pirate and everything, and fights him on the ship and everything. And, he's saying stuff like, I'm trying to ape the early meetings of Kingpin and Spider-Man when he first showed up. Because, real ones know that Kingpin was a Spider-Man villain, not a Daredevil villain originally. And Spider-Man's always commenting on his weight. So he says something like, oh, you must weigh 30 stone or something, everything's archaic and old world talk. But I did do a ton of research just to get some of that stuff right. I thought it would be, and it's fun to do. And I would like to do something. It's tough though, because the comic schedules, you tend to have to get a script done in a week most of the time. If you're doing a monthly book, keep going. But maybe on a special project, like a graphic novel, that would be the right place to do what Simeon's talking about and really dive into a historical era and, really make sure I get it right. Because people will check you on it. You can't screw that stuff up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your next Kickstarter can be a historical
that was the thing with the James Bond books. It's you put in the wrong German Junkers bomber, and somebody's gonna be just rail you online about it. So you better get it right. So I was even reading about how the bomber worked and how they flew it, and it's oh, okay, this didn't work the way I thought it did at all. the whole dropping the bomb thing was part of a sort of, I don't want to say programmed, but it was a sequence that it would go, you would put the plane into when it started into that screaming dive. And the Nazis had the little kind of siren on it that made that scary sound that terrified everybody as it came down. And they would always have to pull up at a certain, when the altimeter hit a certain part, or when they'd have to pull up right away. And that's when they dropped the bomb, and like when they're doing those blitz. And, so we had Bond's literally reading a manual in the book that he found. And he's telling the guy flying the plane, okay, now push that, and stuff, because he doesn't know how to fly a plane yet, but he does learn how eventually.
And Simeon says, thanks for the answer. James Bond 1602 confirmed.
It makes perfect sense if you think about it. Yeah, he'll have a Walthrop PPK but blunderbuss edition thing that he has to stuff with the little rod and powder.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff Parker, for joining us tonight. This was a great interview. You spent a lot of time with us, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
We got to cover.
You deserved it because I kept stalling you so long.
You returned my emails. That is fine with me. You stalled me, but you kept returning the emails. A lot of creators ghost us, so I appreciate the fact that you kept in touch with me and followed through. You can find information on Jeff's Kickstarter in the description of this video. Also links to his website and his Twitter. And also you can find the link for the Minister of Comics Instagram, which is at Minister of Comics. And my Instagram is at OmniDogs_Vault.
Yeah, I need to follow you. I'm not on Instagram enough. I just like use it to spy on my kids. But I will try to track you down and add your or just add me so I can see you, and then I'll.
I asked Taylor if you had an Instagram presence because I posted for the interview. I posted the link for the interview in Instagram, and I wanted to include you in it, but when I put at Jeff Parker, I saw these other Jeff Parkers that didn't look like you.
Are you Science Patrol?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. I was confused by that. Okay. I'm following you right now. There we go.
Ultraman fans. Yeah. That's why I was kind of sort of doing that at one point to just sort of sneak in like, oh, I'm not really ever going to use this. I just wanted to look at art, and stuff like that. Just see what my friends were doing pretty much. So I'm like, my picture's Hayata and I'm Science Patrol. But then people immediately figured out it was me anyway and just started adding me in and stuff. And then I got one of those things because I didn't use the account. I didn't post anything for so long. Someone snuck in with an imposter account, with like a slight number or something on it. And I thought, okay, I got them taken down. And then and I thought, now I actually occasionally put something up, especially with the Blighter thing. I put up some pictures from it. So, it's like, all right, it literally is a use it or lose it sort of thing. So I'll try to be on there more.
All right. I will post your
Even though
Instagram.
I can't stand Facebook and I don't like their interfaces and blah, blah, blah.
And Michael Collins says this is the best interview ever. So that's a pretty big compliment.
We've done a lot of them.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that.
Ben is excited to check out Blighter, as we all are. So all of Jeff's relevant information, I will amend it to include Instagram, will be in the description. Please feel free to hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please,
smash that button, kids. Yeah.
And leave a comment. We always respond to comments. Thanks again to Jeff for agreeing to be on. This was a fantastic interview. Peace and love. Peace and love. Yeah,
you guys run a great show here. I loved it. It was fun.
Oh, I don't want to cut you off. What? Do you have any words to say?
It's like, keep doing what you're doing. This works.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Cool. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace and love. Peace and love, everyone.